All right, so if you haven't figured it out by now, there is some very deep manipulation and hijacking going on. And really, I'm not the one to talk about this too much or bring fear to it because I don't think it's worth stressing over. I think it hinders our ability to rise above it and it keeps us trapped in it. But at some point, we gotta face it. We gotta learn what's going on. The issue is that it's so subtle and it's on an energetic level. So we don't really see it on the surface. It's all happening beneath the surface of reality. Our energy is being hijacked, and more specifically, our focus is being manipulated and controlled. We're going to talk about in this presentation why our focus and our attention are the most valuable things that we have, but we are not sovereign, free, powerful beings because we live our lives scrambled. All these distractions are thrown at us. And it's from people or entities, I'm not really sure, don't really care, but they know how we work better than we do. They know about the science of energy. They know about psychology. They know how to speak to and market to our addictions and our impulses. But it's time to take our power back and really step into our full potential as humans because right now we're living at a fraction of it. When we really start to learn about energy and reality, I believe, we can become a creator of reality. Right now, our reality is being created for us. So, this presentation is how to become what I call a modern alchemist or really an energy master. Someone who can take all this negative energy, all this fear being thrown at us, and transmute it and use it for power. But first, we got to learn what reality actually is. And I think one of the biggest secrets is that we are everything. There is no separation. Division is pushed so much. But if you're looking at the root of reality, we are all made up of the same thing. And we see the same patterns occurring throughout the universe. We don't really notice it because it looks different, right? There's many different forms of physical reality, but at the base, what's underlying everything is the same. And we're all made up of atoms. If you look at the bottom corner there, the Earth has a magnetic field, and so do we, or a toroidal field. It looks the same and it operates the same. And that highlights one of the main principles of reality. You know, if you've heard as above, so below, what that really means is the same processes are happening at multiple different dimensions of reality. So if we learn something about ourselves, it applies out there in the universe. If natural disasters, which I think a few of them have been happening recently, are occurring out there in the world, the same thing is going on at an internal level within us. And it's crazy. I mean, this shit kind of got me thinking we're living in a simulation because the atom looks like a solar system. What if we're just inside one of those atoms, right? What if there's like dimensions upon dimensions? And I don't know, you could get pretty deep with thinking about that, but everything is connected. In the end, we are all one, okay? Anyone that pushes division, anyone that pushes separation is a false god. Just think about like how ecosystems are connected. One part of the food chain dies out or goes wrong, like it messes up the whole thing. Same thing with the economy. You know, the banks, the investors, the suppliers, the wholesalers, the consumers, all of it is connected and depends upon each other. So the first step to manipulating reality is realizing that it's all the same thing and seeing it really for what it is. If you are one with everything, if you become one with everything, why can't you manipulate it? Why can't you have control over it? All right. So now we got to talk about what energy is. And energy, I will say, if you try to grasp what it truly is, you're just going to get more and more confused. I don't think anyone knows what exactly it is. The scientific term, and I don't think this gives any justice to it at all, is the amount of work something can do. But if you want to get more spiritual with it, you can describe energy as a subtle, vital force that animates living beings and permeates the entire universe. And how does energy transfer? It transfers through waves. Even though things appear solid, like this table, right? You knock on it, it appears solid. It is really tons of atoms that are vibrating together. But the wavelength that the atoms are vibrating on is so slow that it appears to be solid. Looking at the electromagnetic spectrum there, you'll see that light, ultraviolet rays, X rays, gamma rays are all vibrating very, very fast. And they have essentially vibrated out of our sight. Our eyes cannot perceive them. We can perceive the visible light spectrum or the rainbow, but that's only a small sliver of what's really going on in the ether or the atmosphere. You got microwaves, we can't see those. You got radio waves. You got the waves that Wi Fi works on. You even got thought waves or brain waves. Music is a kind of wave, and it is a form of energy. We listen to certain music and we feel some kind of way. It's providing us with energy. Thought waves, we produce them. Our brain is basically a transmitting and receiving station, right? Just like a radio. And we send out thoughts, which ripple energy waves out to the universe. And then whatever we put out comes back to us. It's like how the ocean works. You can really look at the ocean and figure out how life works. It's all right there. The ocean produces waves, the waves come rolling in. It's like our thoughts being sent out. But then the wave always has to what? It always comes back, goes back out to the ocean, gets pulled back in. That's how energy works, okay? Everything around us and within us is basically just waves of energy vibrating at different frequency, atoms vibrating at different rates. Now, the crazy thing is, this is how I believe energy can be controlled, how we can take control of energy and manipulate it how we want. Let's read the quote down in the bottom right. Learn to consciously move awareness within the mind. When you can direct awareness, you can begin to direct energy. And when you can direct energy, you can manifest what you want in your life. We can manipulate reality. We can transfer energy with our focus. It's why if someone's looking at you, but you got your back towards them, you can feel it, right? Because our focus and awareness and what we put our attention on, because that process is so powerful, that's why it is continually hijacked and taken advantage of to keep us in a lower state, a lower version of ourselves, if we just constantly fall victim to distractions. I mean, shit, we can be looking at a screen and I can be watching an earthquake happening in Russia, right? And my body is responding to it like I am over in Russia experiencing the earthquake. Our body doesn't know the difference between what we're actually living and what we're just seeing on a screen. It just reacts the same way. And so we're constantly seeing division. We're constantly seeing drama that doesn't pertain to us at all, doesn't affect our lives at all, but we feed into it, we give it attention, and we get our energy sucked because of it. It's energy harvesting, energy leaching, okay? But the reason we know that we can manipulate energy with our consciousness is because of what they call the quantum observer effect. So, what's crazy is that there were experiments done. One of them was called the double slit experiment. And it led to the conclusion that particles, which aren't just atoms, smaller than that, it's the protons, electrons, and neutrons that make up the atom, they change behavior when we view them or when we observe them or when we put our attention onto them. If we're not looking at them, they become a wave. And if you know anything about physics or quantum physics, a wave just kind of operates randomly, right? It gets dispersed out. And basically, what you can conclude from this is that when reality isn't observed, there are an infinite amount of possibilities that could occur. And throughout the presentation, we're going to talk about how this can be applied. But then when you observe those particles, they become fixed. So basically, reality crystallizes when we observe it. Just observing something can affect its behavior or properties. I think this quote explains what exactly goes on in our head. People constantly say to me, when I meditate, my mind wanders all over the place. Technically, this is an incorrect statement. Why? It is incorrect because your mind does not wander. What wanders? Awareness. Awareness is moving from one area of the mind to another. So it's not your mind wandering, it's your focus, it's your attention. And usually we don't have control over that. We're a victim of wherever our mind goes. But if you really think about it, when our mind is wandering to, let's say, a different part of the country, a different part of the world, a different time period, who's to say that we're not actually there in some regard? What if our energy is actually there, wherever we're focusing on, right? Even if our body isn't physically there, our mind is. It's like our mind likes to run off into thinking about the future. It likes to go back and worry about the past. Our body could be in one place, but our mind is somewhere else. So, where are we directing our attention? Wherever our focus is, our energy is. So, if our focus is on our intentions, what we're trying to build in life, what we're trying to do, instead of being caught in distractions, caught in BS, like I talked about in my last video about the power of setting your intentions and actually committing to something, it's like reality collapses into that. Now the universe will start to organize your reality in a way to make your intentions come to life. But definitely check out my last video on intention setting. And so I think one of the biggest lies, I'm trying to speak more authentically and really say what I think because some things I hold back. I don't want to upset people, but I'm going to speak my truth, all right? I do not believe that heaven or hell is an actual place. I think maybe when we die, we could go to another dimension depending on what we were thinking about or what we did in this life, and we could just be living it over and over again. You could call that hell. But the heaven or the hell in the Bible, I think it's kind of used as a form of control. We can be living in heaven on earth, we can be loving life, or we can be living in hell. We can be suffering. We can be eating ourselves alive because what we create in our own head. The mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. You can choose to stop feeding into your suffering. And this is transmutation at its finest, right? Use your suffering as evolution. Be grateful for your suffering and see how you can learn from it and evolve. And you could be doing the hardest thing, but you could be having a damn good time. It's all perception, what you perceive it to be. It's like I find myself, no matter what the weather is, I find myself complaining about it. When it's too cold, I wish it were warmer. When it's too hot, I wish it were cooler. Sometimes we're in one place and we're always wishing we were in another place. And for some reason, it's very hard for us to be fulfilled. But we can be fulfilled no matter what is going on outside of us. We can be relaxed no matter the chaos outside of us. We can control our internal state and decide what emotions we feel. That is true sovereignty. That is true freedom. The real way to eradicate suffering from your being is to be content wherever you are and find the good wherever you are. But for some reason, we're so good at seeing the bad. And I think it's just because of how we're wired. And I just made a whole 3-part series on a step by step process to rewire the brain. So definitely feel free to check that out after this one. I'm not going to talk about rewiring ourselves, but it's definitely necessary. Like, we are seriously that powerful to just change how we view life and it will change. Same thing with the placebo effect. If the placebo effect is not, like, I was thinking about that one day. The placebo effect is insane. We can heal ourselves solely based on our beliefs. We don't really need anything outside of us at all. It's all coming from within here. I mean, shit, we got to start taking our power back because we're giving way too much power to the outside world when reality is really controlled from the inside out. And so, becoming a real alchemist is becoming so powerful that no negativity can touch you. And it's not like you have to run from negativity, okay? You can use negativity, you can use suffering, you can use failure and transmute it into its opposite. Anger, for example, is a very powerful emotion. It really gets things going within you. And you can channel that into improving yourself, finding a good outlet for it. But we really have to start taking responsibility for everything that happens to us in life. We are responsible for our outcomes, and no matter what happens, we could have the worst thing possible happen. but we can use it. We can find a way to spin it and use it to our advantage. I'm really trying to stop labeling things in my life as good or bad. How can you even decide what is really good and bad for you? Because I've looked back on so many things that I thought were bad, that I thought really sucked, and I'm super grateful for them because they helped me evolve like crazy. I'm thankful for those times. Something we may think could be good for us might actually be bad. So you have to go into every event in life with neutrality and not trying to judge everything as good or bad from our limited perspective. Everything is a learning experience no matter what. That is like the most powerful mindset to have. And I was going to talk about it later when we talk about polarity, but I'm just going to say it right now. Suffering, and this goes back to the whole heaven or hell thing. Suffering cheerfully endured ceases to be suffering and is transmuted into ineffable joy. It's just changing how we look at it. But we gotta first, I'm just gonna talk about this real quick. We gotta first identify our true self, and it's not our mind, okay? To control our mind, we have to realize that we are not our mind. We are the observer of it. We are the soul. So think of the sun just shining, right? It's just existing, but it's behind the clouds, and the clouds are chaotic, right? The clouds are random. Sometimes it can be clear, sometimes it can be chaos and stormy and whatever, but the clouds are our mind, right? Sometimes it goes on tangents, rabbit holes, and really it's just trying to keep us safe, like I talked about with fear. It's just trying to keep us safe. It's a safety mechanism, but most of the time we don't need that. Our soul is like the sun. It's just being, it's just existing, it's just continuing to shine. So let's say you have a fear and you notice the fear come up. You just observe it, acknowledge it. You don't try to force it down, and you just observe how it's affecting your thought patterns and your emotions and your actions and how it's holding you back. Don't try to change it, just be in awareness of it. You'll notice there's a second part of you. Okay? The second part of you is the observer or soul part of you. It's not in fear. It's just watching it all happen. It's just watching all that mental chatter. So there's a part of you that is in fear and a part of you that is not. Right there, you found your true self. Maybe you found your higher self, you found your soul, you found your true being, authentic self, right? It is observing without judgment. From there, we can control what's going on up here. And the more you find yourself identifying with your thoughts, your mental chatter, and you bring your awareness back to the observer part of you, that is really the key to everything, right? But anyway, going back to transmutation, we could have had the absolute worst childhood. Shoot, we could have been abused. We could have been bullied. While there is a lot of trauma there to work through, in the end, we can use our childhood as fuel to make us stronger. We can, very surface level example, but we can get punched. We can get knocked down. That was energy being transferred to us. We can decide then how we use that energy in return. So, unless we gain control over our emotions, we will probably be a victim to them. A cliche term I'm sure you've heard is that emotions are energy in motion. Emotions affect how our body functions. Every single cell in our body responds to our thoughts and emotions. Negative emotions, if they're chronically in our body for too long, they will get stuck there. And I do believe that's how illness and disease really manifests itself. Our body should be a conduit of energy. Okay, remember we had that magnetic field. It should be free flowing energy. But most of us are probably experiencing pent up energy, stuck energy, different points in the body. Right there on that cool graphic, it says resentment causes knots that obstruct flow of energy. Where are you holding grudges right now? If we're looking at the emotional energy chart, and I've talked about this countless times on this channel, but if you are holding resentment, if you struggle to let go, where are you living? It's definitely not enlightenment and peace, and it's not joy. You're a victim if you haven't forgiven someone for something, if you haven't gotten over something in the past. You are a prisoner to it. And I'm not saying we should never get angry. We can definitely feel all emotions. That's a part of life, that's a part of being human. But we have to let them flow freely out of us, right? We already talked about using those lower emotional states and transferring it, using it as fuel to get to higher emotional states. But a lot of us are carrying so much baggage, so much shit from the past that there's no chance to transmute those energies. We have to feel lighter. We have to become lighter. And we have to let all of that go, forgive whoever we need to forgive, transcend what is holding us back. And there's a reason why peace and enlightenment are at the top of the chart, are at the highest energy, ultimate consciousness. It's essentially nothingness. It's pure stillness, right? That's how I would categorize peace. It's basically surrendering control. It is weird to think of peace as like the highest energy, but right there is the secret. That is the secret to unlimited energy, okay? That is the secret right there. Inner peace begins the moment you choose not to allow, we already kind of talked about this, but not to allow another person or event to control your emotions. That is the secret to free energy, unlimited energy, healing, tapping into our powers, probably time traveling. I think this shit is deep. And I think we get to enlightenment when we realize that we're one with everything. Okay? And that's when we can gain full control over ourselves in reality. And then this graphic is showing our chakras, which are spinning energy centers in the body. And if they are open, we should be fully channeling universal energy or source, I guess you could say, letting the universe move through us. And in that way, making our lives more effortless. But instead, the energy gets stuck, it gets stagnant. And actually, I just thought about something that can apply to this. So, me and my girlfriend took a trip to Sedona, and we just happened to go into one of these spiritual stores. They had some crazy sound bowls in there. They were freaking huge. They were made out of crystal, like they were legit. And we were just screwing around looking at them, and the worker of the shop comes over. This dude's like 70 years old. Shout out to Chuck. I forget what the store is called, but if you ever go in and see Chuck, that dude is on his shit. But he was like, I'll play a sound bowl for you so you can see how it works. And so my girlfriend, she had a lot of ear problems when she was younger, and now she basically doesn't have an eardrum in one ear, so she's very sensitive to certain sounds. And so she noticed when he was playing the sound bowl that the vibration, right? Sound being vibration, waves being sent out. She could feel it going up her body and then it stopped. She said it stopped right at her heart. And then Chuck was like, oh, okay, heart chakra's blocked, got stuck energy there, and it got emotional. I think she really went back into her past and realized why energy got stuck there. And so just observe, how could you be stuck, right? But now we got to talk about the aura, of course. And like I had already mentioned, we have a magnetic field, and specifically our heart. Our heart produces a crazy strong magnetic field. And people can feel your aura, right? This is why our aura extends multiple feet. I don't know how many feet from the body. But if we are caught in stress, anxiety, negativity, there becomes holes in the aura. You know why actually I was thinking? You know how you go down these thought rabbit holes specifically with anxiety and worry? Like if you pay attention, the aura or the magnetic field is rotating around us, I believe. And you can tell how worry it kind of rotates around your head, right? You'll be worried about something, then you'll forget about it, then it'll like come back around. Our thoughts get trapped in our magnetic field and they kind of carry around with us. So it becomes very, very important then to cleanse our magnetic field. When I feel that my mind becomes too chaotic, I just take 5 minutes and just basically let go of worrying about everything else, focus on my breathing, slow my breathing down, and relax my body, which slows my mind down. And then I just remind myself that I don't have to worry about the future. Everything will work itself out, and I recenter myself in my limitless state. I remind myself that I am limitless. And usually this will cleanse my aura pretty well. And I remember everything that I'm grateful for as opposed to everything that I'm lacking and worrying about and trying to control. You also expand your magnetic field, your energy, when you uphold your integrity to yourself, you stay true to yourself, and you don't compromise yourself, okay? You stay authentic to you. Authenticity, you can feel people that are authentic. You no longer let the outside dictate who you are and what you do. There's a certain amount of energy that you're going to have. And so honestly, I'm gonna cut this off. I'm gonna make this two parts because it's getting way too long. So stay tuned for part two. We got some deep stuff coming in part two, but hopefully that was a good base. There's a lot to unpack here, but let me know what you think. We'll see ya.